and an update on the mystery plants. Well, I used Google search, Google Lens. You know, when you open up Google on your phone and there's a little square kind of image icon, you can take a picture of something and ask it. First, I did it this way, and it gave me a lot of different possibilities. But then I took a sideways picture showing the red stems, and this is clearly the packet of Swiss chard that I had. I kind of wondered what had happened to the Swiss chard that I thought I had planted. Well, that's what happened to it. I thought it was tomatoes. So now I have lots of Swiss chard to sell at the market because I don't know that we eat that. Well, this is the story of my old thyme plant. There it is. See its terrible looking stem. It really did die. It's even got moss growing around the roots and stuff. But it had one little strand that had a few green leaves after the winter. So I just kept it in the pot and I stuck the end of the green part down into the dirt. And sure enough, it rooted. And now, it's growing on the side of the pot, but it's rooted and it's got new light green leaves, so it's got new growth. I think this is one of many new strands, new fronds. So I'm real pleased. Poor little thing has decided it wanted to live. Isn't that nice? This is English thyme, is what it was. Hi friends. Well, it is time for a little update and move forward on our sock knit along. Just as a little reminder to anybody who happens to be new, some of us are knitting together and making a pair of socks on a circular needle, 2 socks at the same time. Okay, the magic loop method. And I'll put a link up here, up there I guess it is, to the previous video where we did the cast on, and everybody's been working on their first 6 inches. And I'll post here the instructions for the next step, okay? The next step is the heel flap, okay? Yeah, this is worked back and forth only on the heel. And this, I think, is the reinforced part of the heel, okay? The back of the heel. So I'm going to read these directions myself, and then we will commence. Okie dokie. So here are my socks so far. I have finally, it took me forever to get my 6 inches of cuff. I'm not even convinced that I've ever done a full 6 inches before. I think sometimes I do 4 inches or 5 inches, and then I go ahead and launch into the heel flap. And I think that's the reason why I always have yarn left over, which is not a bad thing if you're going to be repairing these socks, which, considering how much time we spend making them, we need to repair them and keep them working. Okay, so let's just look at this sock first, okay? Here is, you can see where the string is. This is where I started. This is the beginning of the row, I guess I would say, and it corresponds to the division here between these 2 stitches. I was keeping my stitch marker in the work, and I just kept on falling off the needle, so finally I just stuck it down there. But it's not hard to keep track of where it goes because it's where the gap is in the work. Okay, same down here. So all that to say, I cast on 64 stitches. I have 32 on this side and 32 on this side. Now, this is what's interesting. It says at the end of the cuff, you're supposed to place the last 28 stitches on a holder or a needle. Okay, and those are your instep stitches. Now, I always put this on a little piece of yarn. I use some of this, and the last 28 that I just knitted are these over here. So I'm going to transfer those. I'm just going to stick this in here this way. I'm going to put a nice strand of this onto a little tapestry needle and pass it onto there. And then I'll be working my heel flap on this side, and I won't be doing anything on this side. Okay? Hope that helps. This is the fun little container that I keep my tapestry needles in. And I tell you, I use them all the time for so many things. Very useful to have. Okay. So here we go. Just gonna grab a few. I could put them on a stitch holder. I just find this, to put them on yarn, is just very flexible and kind of easier to manage as I'm working on the other side instead of having a metal stitch holder. But do whatever you want, whatever you are the most comfortable with. I probably did it this way the first time because I didn't know where my stitch holder was and this was the only thing I had. But you're going to put half of the stitches for each sock this way. So I'm going to do this one first, and then I'll move over and I'll do the other one as well, the other sock as well. Okay, I'll come back to you then. And then this back one here. So now I've got this needle free, and now my work is going to look like this, just the front sides of these two socks going back and forth. Now, the stitch we're going to use is simple, but you really have to keep track of it. The first row across, we're going to slip the first stitch and knit the second stitch and repeat that all the way down the row. It's very important to have an even number of stitches. I have 32 on each one. That's super important. If you don't, I would encourage you to either increase or decrease before you get started on this so that you don't end up making a mess. So as you're working on the right side, you're going to slip one and knit one. When you come back on the second row, you're going to slip one and purl one. Okay? Now what this means is that the slip stitch on the front side of the work is going to be paired with a real stitch on the other side of the work, okay? And back and forth all the way down. So your purl stitches on the back, which are really knit stitches on the front, are going to be paired with a slip stitch. And that's a piece of yarn that passes over, and that's the reinforcement. It's going to kind of slightly pull it in at the heel, which is a good thing. It's going to make it a little narrower, but it's also going to, this is your reinforced heel that keeps the heel so nice and sturdy when you wear the sock. Okay, so I'm going to do this first row across, paying very careful attention that I'm not missing anything. But the good thing is that you'll be able to see even after you've done some rows where the slip stitches are and the real stitches, and so hopefully that'll help. Sometimes I do this like when I'm by myself, and I'll actually say it out loud, and I'll say slip, knit, slip, knit, slip, knit, because my brain is of enough of an age that it needs all the help it can get. So I can't talk to you now while I do this because I have to talk to myself. Slip, knit, slip, knit, slip, slip, knit, 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 slip, knit. All right. Now, I want to look at this extremely closely and carefully with you so that you can see the difference between the two stitches. Now, I'm going to zoom in on this a bit so that hopefully you'll be able to see this, the difference between, of course you can always see them. If you look over the back, you can see which ones are just slipped over. And they also tend to lean at an angle a little bit, like this one right here where my finger is. That one's kind of leaning at an angle. That's a slip stitch. But if you look carefully, you'll be able to see which ones go down into the stitch, like where my finger is here. You can see how that loop goes down into the middle of the stitch, and that's a regular stitch. And then the ones on either side of it are slip stitches. Okay, I've done both of the socks, just that first knit row. Now we're going to go back the other way and do the purl row. Because remember, this is stockinette stitch, so that's what we're looking for. And I want to show you the back of this first row before we start, because you can really see the slip and knit alteration there. Okay, so let's look at that. Now, look at these stitches. You can really see the ones that are real stitches because they have that bar going across. The ones that don't have the bar, those are the slip stitches. Because remember that the knit stitches that we just did on the front of the work, on the outside, the right side of the work, those are purl stitches on the back side, and that's where you get that bar. Sometimes you call it a hump, but it's a little bar across the stitch. All right, now I'm hoping I can zoom in on this enough and you can see it. I got my light shining on it. Now, when you do the purl row, you can really see, you'll be able to see if you've messed up on the front row. You see this stitch right here, how it has a bar across it? That is one that was a knit stitch on the front. It's a purl stitch on the back. That's the one that now you want to slip. Now here is one that was a slip stitch on the front, okay? It has no bar, it's real loose. This is one you want to purl on the back. And so if the stitch was slipped on the front, you want to make it a real stitch on the back, and vice versa. If it was a slip stitch on the other side, you want to make it a real stitch here. And this is just where you have to pay attention to what you're doing. If I said you don't have to purl on these socks, I was a little liar. But on the inside, on the back side of the work, on the purl side of the work, you can really, really see what you're doing. And you can make sure that you get those slip stitches and real stitches paired up the way they're supposed to be. So remember, if you come across a real purl stitch, you slip that one. If you come across one that was a slip stitch on the previous row, that's the one that you want to purl. Hear my chickens outside cackling away. I have a broody hen, Sheena, who is by far my oldest hen. I looked up yesterday, and I am sorry to say, I think that poor hen is like 8 years old, and she went broody, and it's impossible to break her broodiness. She's sitting on a clutch of eggs, and I'm giving her plenty of water and food and stuff, but oh my goodness, oh no. Okay, now look at this. See, this is the last stitch. See, it is a purl stitch. Now when I go back the other way, I'm going to start with a slip stitch. So I know that I'm in good shape. But I am doing both socks at the same time, so I'm going to go do the purl row on this sock, and then I think I'll take a little break for a while. Okay. All right, and if you have any questions, okay, if this isn't making sense, you need to let me know. Hopefully it'll make sense to you. No, Lily, hush. Okay, so I did the first 2 rows, the first knit and the first purl row. Everything looks good. I dropped 1 stitch toward the end and had to go digging for it. That was no fun. Now, the instructions say to do this until this heel flap is 2 1/4 inches. Okay, so you're going to do that 2 1/4 inches long. Now, I wanted to say this, on the slip stitches, on the knit rows, I am slipping as if to knit. On the purl rows, I am purling as if to purl. Okay, I'm pulling them off that way. Hope that's okay. That's just what I do. It seems to have worked in the past. So if you have any more questions, let me know. I'm going to put the directions up here at the end again so you can read them yourself. They're a little scratchy looking, but I think that they are working great. All right, let me know how your socks are coming. Post a picture if you can. Oh, look what broke out into bloom just, I guess, in the last couple of days. It's our gardenia bush. Oh, just so gorgeous. It's huge. It's probably 8 feet tall, 6 feet wide. And this is only the beginning. That's a nice little branch down there. Look at that.